All right, guys. Hello, hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Wow, it's already one of those days, huh? A little rainy, thundery Thursday out there. A little weird, even though it's so cold out, right? So, real quick, guys. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for logging in with Zoom. Like Shane said earlier, it's okay if you don't have a camera, as long as you can listen in and hear in. Just for the respect of the webinar, we are going to be muting everyone's audio besides Shane and I. And in the chat, I will send a little chat for everyone. We will allow questions to be asked through the chat, and then we will answer them during some breakout sessions. So just a heads up that we'll be muting audio for the time being for participants, and we will answer questions through the chat just to respect everyone's time and everyone's sound. So first of all, my name is Corey Lebrecht. I work in the training and marketing department here at Nutmeg State Financial Credit Union. I will be emceeing the event along with Shane Dugan. He is our AVP of Lending. And a fun fact, Shane actually hired me 7 years ago, almost to the date. So you can thank Shane for this webinar as well. But Shane, if you'd like to explain your role, what you do here at the credit union, besides hiring me 7 years ago. But
Sure, yeah. So as Corey mentioned, I'm our AVP of Lending, and within that role, I actually oversee both of our lending department and our business services area. But before I kind of get started in some of that, I just want to kind of note really quickly, I've been in credit unions now for about 11 years. And one of the things, if you do the math to that, that actually brings you right after the previous Great Recession that we went through, in 2008. So I've seen kind of firsthand how some of these financial crises can impact both our members and business owners in the end, and just our overall community around us. The last 5 years in particular, I've been overseeing our business services department, just growing that area of the credit union, continuing to work with our community members, engaging both small and large businesses, and getting capital into the hands of where it needs to be to help our economy be strong. More recently, I was also able to bring my finance background to the consumer side of lending as well, and help on that side of the house. So I've got my hands in all of our loans at this point, which is a lot of fun. But yep, that's what I've been doing over the last couple years of my career.
awesome, thank you. If anyone, by the way, is having any issues hearing us, or again, wants to ask a question, please type it out in the chat. You can find it at the bottom of your screen. I know I just got a hello from a couple of people. So hello, hi Sam. I just saw your chat as well. Hi Tyler, thank you. And like I said, we will open up for questions throughout the session, and then at the end we'll have a breakout session as well. So if you do have a question, you're not able to ask it out loud, don't worry, you will have your chance later on to ask those questions. So as a reminder, number one, for those that are on this call, you probably found us through our website or through social media or some other form, but on our homepage on our website, we do have all of our important information for businesses facing any challenges during this COVID-19 pandemic. So again, if you need any sort of resources or any questions outside of this, remember, you can go right to our website at nutmegstatefcu.org or www.bankingawesome.com. So and I'll remind you, and I'll send out that as well if need be. So I guess first, Shane, let's get started with Nutmeg's lending options, what we can do for the businesses out there, and for what kind of products and services do we offer here?
Sure. So just really quickly, so those of you that don't know what the difference between a credit union and a bank is, I think that's an important part to highlight because it plays into our services really well. We're a not-for-profit financial institution, a cooperative financial institution as well. So we're member owned. And that's important because all of our basically income gets reinvested back into the community, back to you guys. Usually that's in the form of lower fees, lower interest rates, usually little to no fees on accounts, frankly. And it also, I think, retweaks the way that we do business and why we do business. When you don't have to worry about this large shareholder that's worrying about, a specific return, right? It allows you to focus on the member. To us, that's the most important reason of why we do what we do every day. So on the business side of the house, that's going to be kind of today's focus. I know I mentioned some consumer stuff as well, but we're going to focus on business stuff today. One of the large areas that we help businesses is on the lending side of things, and we do that regularly, day in and day out. One of the products that you can certainly look to utilize for your business would be a business term loan. Typically, term loans are used to refinance equipment. restructured debt, purchase or refinance vehicles. Heck, I've financed a hot air balloon at one point. So you could do anything to purchase, equipment, that type of stuff for your businesses with loans like that. Those are still available to our members and to the general public within our field of membership. Business lines of credits are certainly a big thing that we get asked for regularly. Business lines of credits are generally used for short-term working and capital needs. You could use them to buy inventory, pay your employees, and other kind of day-to-day operational needs for the business. That's cash that's meant to be borrowed and usually paid back once you end up, creating whatever it is you're creating as a business in the end. We also have business credit cards. Those function pretty similar to a business line of credit, although you don't draw from exactly the same manner, but you can use them on the go. Those of you who are business owners know that sometimes you want to separate your business expenses from your personal expenses, and having a business credit card for your business would certainly allow you to do that. And one of the other benefits to that as well is if you have employees who are representing you in your business, you can give them a card on behalf of that and make them authorized signers. Obviously, you're letting them spend on behalf of the business, but you can do that for certain employees that you have as well. So from a lending standpoint, those are some of the main products. We also do commercial real estate that is on investment properties. So if you're a real estate investor and you're looking to purchase a property and hold it and rent it out, we can certainly help you in that aspect. If you're a small business owner and you're looking for a building to start your manufacturing, to run your retail store out of, anything along those lines, we certainly finance loans in that aspect as well. And then last but not least, construction loans. Construction loans are something that we can offer if you're looking to build, a building for yourself, or again, build something from an apartment standpoint or a complex that you're planning on renting out as well. We certainly offer financing in that aspect. It's not just lending as well. We're really a full service financial institution. Your savings, checking, you can have multiple business accounts with us, both checking if you need operating accounts, payroll accounts, that type of stuff. We have some very unique products as well in regards to being able to offer electronic services online. So being able to do your business without ever having to come into a branch. That's a possibility through either remote check scanning, certain other technology that we offer, as well as a credit union too. So basically anything that you can do at your regular bank, for the most part, you can do with Nutmeg State as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane. So again, like Shane just said, all the information on those products and services that we offer, you can find directly through our website, bankingawesome.com, nutmegstatefcu.org. So before we move on kind of more on to the PPP program and our Recovery Bridge Loan Program, if anyone has any questions about any of the product services first, here's a quick time we can break for that. I did see something in the chat. Hello, Francis. I said hi to you, so welcome as well.
Hello as well, guys, just so you know.
Yep. If I don't get any questions, we will move on.
I just did that good of a job.
Okay. You hired me. That's a good job, I guess, right? So again, if you aren't able to type out a question, by the way, we will be opening up the discussion for everyone to be able to have their chance to talk to at the end. So just a heads up on that. So let's transition again into kind of what the government's doing to aid businesses. And if you can, tell us a little bit about the Recovery Bridge Loan Program, Shane.
Sure. So just so you all know, we are an SBA lender. That's something that we're going to cover very shortly as well. So even outside of this Paycheck Protection Program and some of the other SBA products that I'll discuss today, we are an active SBA lender and can certainly help with those products as well. The first one that Corey wanted to bring up is not through the SBA. That one's actually, sorry. Getting ahead of myself over here. The Connecticut Recovery Bridge Loan. So those of you that heard about 2-3 weeks ago, Connecticut put a program together where they were offering up to $75,000 to small businesses as a short-term emergency loan. Essentially, that loan was offered to any small business or nonprofit with less than 100 employees. You ended up getting a 0% interest rate for 12 months. You had the option of extending it another 6 months if you really needed to. That loan in particular with the DECD did require personal guarantees and a credit review as a part of it. Those of you that were following it at the time also knew within 2 days of them rolling it out on a Wednesday, so by Friday, they actually stopped accepting applications at the time. The $25 that $25 million, not $25, that they initially seeded the program with ran out really quickly. They threw another $25 million in there, but I think that was at the time just enough for the applicants that they ended up having in the pipeline. My understanding of that program, it was meant to cover some short-term needs while the SBA was working on what we will cover later with the Paycheck Protection Program. If you have one of those loans, if you're one of the fortunate people to get them, you can take that loan and actually roll it into an SBA loan later on down the route as well if you're unable to pay it back in that 12 or 18 months, just so you know. That is something you can certainly do. That is not normal for SBA loans, but they did make a stipulation for that specific program to be rolled into that. So there is, I have not heard recently that they are planning on opening that back up. I think what they were doing was trying to bide some time for this Paycheck Protection Program and some other program and stimulus package money to get in the hands of people. But stay tuned. Hopefully I'm wrong on that one.
Hopefully so. So before we move on, I do want to just shout out to Sam McGee. He did ask a question and said, where's the money, right? Well, that's, I think, the question we all have at this point. So before we move on, Shane, do you have any insight into that?
Depends, I guess, on which money you're talking about. If you're talking about the state money, it's all gone, from what I understand. Although somebody just kindly chatted in that apparently the DECD has or had something at 1 o'clock today that mentioned that they might open it back up. Kevin, I appreciate that. That's news to me, but wonderful indeed. I think everybody's trying the best that they can right now, whether it's the federal government, whether it is the state, local government. To do that. Sam, we'll get to PPP at the end of this. Don't worry. We're probably going to spend most of our time on that in the end, and I'll cover that for you. Don't worry. But one of the things we have to all realize too is that there's been a lot of movement in state and federal programs and even in the private sector in trying to help support and prop up businesses while we're going through what we're going through. This is certainly something that many of us were not anticipating, being what it is, and we're all trying the best we can to get the money in the hands of where it needs to be, which is in our workers' pockets, businesses, in liquidity, so that they can stay healthy as well.
Thanks. Good questions out there. So moving on, kind of on that topic. So SBA, Small Business Administration, has a program to help out, obviously. So Shane, you want to get a little bit into that as well?
Yeah, so actually the rest of the loans that we're going to cover today are SBA related loans. The first two loans that you probably heard about were specifically applied through to the SBA. That's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, also known as the EIDJ. I had to look at that because I couldn't remember the letters. So that's the one that was initially rolled out by the SBA. You could apply for that for up to $2 million to help small businesses and not-for-profits affected by natural disaster. And that's what the program was originally established for. It was not meant to be a national emergency program. It was meant for more regional disasters like hurricanes, earthquakes, things that had more localized issues with them where they needed to get the money to the hands of business owners on a localized basis. So what you've probably found if you've applied for this loan is that the SBA has not been super responsive for getting back to you or giving you the money for that loan. And I think they intentionally are doing that because they wanted people to more focus on that paycheck protection loan. That has kind of been the big focus of them and the Treasury at the moment. But that is certainly still a program. And just so you know, that program always exists. It is enacted and available to a business once the federal government or the state government declares a national emergency due to a natural disaster like COVID. So Connecticut was actually the first state to have access to that program. One of the really nice things that I like about that program, if you are able to get into it or explore it in the future, because I think it'll be open for a little while, even though they're not getting back to people at this moment for it, is that you can use it for a little bit more flexible reasons than what you can use for the Paycheck Protection Program. So you can use it to pay payroll, pay your debts or consolidate debts, accounts payable if you have that type of stuff, and other bills that arise from the impact of whatever disaster takes place. They give you a really flexible rate. So right now, for a small business, and just so you know, there are some other stipulations outside of just this, but generally the SBA considers a small business a business that has 500 and less employees. There's some other nuances to it outside of that, but the main gist of it is if you have 500 less employees, you're considered a small business by the SBA. If you're a small business, you get a fixed 3.75% interest rate for your term. If you are a nonprofit, you would get a 2.75% fixed interest rate for whatever term you get. And then the actual repayment period is very flexible as well. They will go out to up to 30 years on those loans, depending upon your ability to repay. Repayment is based on a case-by-case basis from what I understand. So not everybody would get a 30-year term. Some might get a 7, 10, 15, 20, something along those lines. So the program that's being discussed right now, Chris, is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan that's directly applied through the SBA itself, not the Paycheck Protection Program. Again, that's meant to be more of a regional disaster relief program, which means that you would, again, have to apply directly through the SBA. The SBA funds this themselves directly through the Treasury and has specific money earmarked for this program. So that's kind of the main program that rolled out by the federal government in the weeks that started this in the end. There's also another part of that program that falls in that umbrella, which is the economic advance. So it's the Economic Injury Disaster Advance Loan. It has loan in the title, but it's more of a forgivable grant. So the great question, Michael. The first one I was talking about, the up to $2 million one, that is not a forgivable loan. That is a loan that you would have to pay back on your own throughout the course of that term. What I'm talking about now, which is a $10,000 advance loan, essentially coincides with the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. But what they're doing is they're actually just advancing you $10,000 immediately, which you do not have to pay back. It's just meant for use. They call it a loan, but truly it's kind of more of a grant in that aspect. From my understanding, if you apply for that, you apply directly with the SBA for that program. You should get funds in your hand relatively quickly. They say on their website, same day. I'm not sure how much I ever trust same day stuff from the federal government, but it is meant to be a very quick and efficient process to get that $10,000, which can be really used for any of your business needs. So for that, you can call that part debt forgiveness if you'd like. That might be considered that. I believe it is a separate application than the Economic Injury Disaster Loan as well. I'm not positive on that, but there is more information on the SBA website on how to apply for that. It is my understanding that that loan is actively being funded and getting into the hands of business owners more so than the $2 million one that I was talking about prior to this. So that is definitely an option that's out there. You can apply for both. You can apply for both of the loans that I just talked about and the SBA Paycheck Protection Loan. So don't worry if you end up going and getting that loan and then apply for the Paycheck Protection Loan that's going to disqualify you or anything along those lines. It does not. You can access both of the loans, and that is certainly okay for your business.
Okay, I have a couple items in chat. I think Michael asked a little bit more about a separate application for the EIAL alongside with the EIDL. Shane?
So I believe both of those are two separate applications. Both would be directly through the SBA itself, and you would go directly on the SBA's website to apply with them.
Great. And then I see Kevin also put in the chat, takes several days versus 3 days that it will take from the government. So thank you for that feedback as well. So speaking on the SBA programs, I will open up to the chat for questions. I actually see, right as I say it, I see Kevin put in there. Shane, if you can see, I'm sorry, Kim, not Kevin.
Kim, that is a good question. I believe sole proprietorships were opened up for that program as well. That might be something we will need to follow up with you, Corey, if you could take a note of that and get that to Kim. We can follow up with you on that. I believe, so traditionally the SBA does not lend to sole proprietors and nonprofit organizations. They are strictly meant to service for-profit businesses. They've changed some of that because of what's going on and because they also understand that everybody was forced to shut down. You know, that's certainly something that we can get back to on, though, in regards to the sole proprietorship.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for the SBA programs? Kevin, it looks like put in there, roll into your PPP. We are going to be talking about PPP actually in the next section. So thank you, Kevin, King of Transitions, and Lisa. So that, and Sam also asked about it earlier. So Shane, I guess it's time to talk about the PPP.
I'm not surprised at that at all. I thought all of the questions were probably going to come today for this. So happy to get into that now. So just so you guys are aware, this is the part of the stimulus package. It was $349 billion that was allocated for small business relief for businesses directly affected by the COVID virus. The program was built with the same terms and structure for everybody. So regardless of where you go in the end, the loan itself, the rate that you get, the terms that you get, everything along those lines are the same. So it doesn't matter, you know, your credit or anything like that. You're going to get the same rate, same term, same forgiveness as long as you follow the required parts of the program. I promise, guys, I will get to when is the money coming at the end of this. So no worries there. Okay. You can apply for up to $10 million for this program, which is primarily supposed to be used for keeping your employees at work. So if you currently still have employees and they are working, you are supposed to use this money to keep them employed in the short term, specifically the next 8 weeks after you receive funds for it. If you have furloughed your employees or let them go for whatever reason, you would need to bring them back as a part of receiving this loan. That is a big part of the loan forgiveness in the end, is bringing your workforce back. So, you know, in the end, this money is really meant to get into the hands of the employees that you hire or the business owner, you know, as a supplement to the paycheck that you're normally receiving from the business. The loan amount is calculated based off of your average monthly payroll. So they're going to look at 2019's payroll data for you. Payroll data, they consider you know, stuff like your W-2 wages, if you're self-employed, your net earnings. They also include stuff like retirement funding, medical benefits, state and local taxes, as well as a part of quote unquote payroll benefits that would be calculated into that loan amount. And again, basically they're going to take all of that information for 2019. They're going to average it out on a monthly basis to a monthly basis for you. And you're going to multiply that by 2.5 times. And that's going to give you what your loan amount is in the end. Really quick with that, there are other parts to this which I'm going to get into very briefly, which is that money can be allocated and used for other expenses, but the loan amount itself, and I get this question regularly, and I see applications that come in with incorrect information in, the loan amount itself is only based off of your average monthly payroll, okay? Now, the money itself can also be used for other expenses like your rent, interest on your mortgage, and they specifically say interest on your mortgage, not principal, just so you know. So it does not, you cannot use that balance towards your principal pay down. And then other items like utilities, so your cable, electric, telephone, whatever, not plumbing, you know, water, that type of stuff for your business. You can use basically up to 25% of those funds that you receive for those other approved expenses as well, okay? As long as you don't use more than 25% of the costs for those type of expenses, and you don't reduce your headcount, your full-time employee headcount by what you had prior to this event, your loan should be forgiven in totality. in the next month or two, basically when the 8-week period kind of comes up. So it's important though that one, you do not lower your staff's wages by more than 25%. If you've let people go or you furloughed them, that you bring them back immediately, because that is, and immediately is the day that you receive the funds. They expect you to start paying your employees that day. Now, if you are unable to actually function out of your business, if you're a restaurant and you can't have people come in, that's okay. You don't have to open for business per se. What you have to do is start paying your employees and start paying for those qualifying expenses with the money right away during that 8-week time period. And as long as you do that, you will see that money forgiven. Now, if you don't follow those program parameters, and if you have specific questions or you want to see a very helpful guide in how to calculate that information or what information doesn't qualify or how loan forgiveness would be reduced if you don't do that, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and this is on our website, put out a very good document that clearly explains the program parameters like this, probably better than anybody can ever explain them, even me. So I encourage you guys, if you haven't seen this already, I'll move my face over here so you can see it, to go take a look at that. Somebody's very nice to put that out there. So thank you in the chat. Definitely encourage you guys to take a look at that. I think it's on our website as well. Very helpful. Page 3 and 4 in particular are going to explain, one, the loan amount information, and then the debt forgiveness part of it in the end. The Paycheck Protection Program, though, is meant to be a forgivable loan. You will not have to make any payments during the next 6 months as well. While interest accrues immediately that while you get the loan, you are not paying any monthly payment in this time period. And if you follow the program the way that it's intended and you follow the qualifying reasons for using it, essentially the program won't cost you anything, because the SBA is going to come in and pay your interest and principal balance that's owed to the financial institution before you ever hit any, have to make any sort of payment for that program, okay? So very important, though, to just make sure that you follow the guidelines in regards to what you can use that money for, so that you don't jeopardize that loan forgiveness in the end. The program itself, if you are a sole proprietor or you are a small business, so again, a small business being defined in its main characteristic as 500 employees or less, and this is for both not-for-profits and for for-profit businesses. Churches, if you are a 501c3, you would qualify for the program as well. The SBA was going back and forth on that a little bit. So if you are those types of businesses, you can apply now. If you are a independent contractor or basically a single member business. So if you're an LLC and you're the sole member, you don't have any employees, your application date is actually tomorrow. You would have to technically apply for that as of tomorrow. So they opened it up to the larger businesses initially, and then independent contractors, kind of single man businesses. Tomorrow is the date for you guys. The program itself runs until June 30th, 2020. There's definitely talk from what I've heard about more money being put into this. I know a lot of people were very concerned that the same thing was going to happen with this program that happened with the state of Connecticut, where they were going to run out of money like that, and everybody was going to be scrambling to try to figure out what to do. From what I understand and what I've read and what I've watched, the Treasury does not plan on letting that happen. They plan on continuing to fund this program as needed. They understand that if they don't do something right now, or whatever economic impact is certainly happening now, but going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months as well, is just going to be really bad. So that their point to this is to try to keep people employed, try to keep people's paychecks in their pocket, so that you can continue going out and spending money like you normally do. And that's the important part of the program. Again, the rate for this program is 1%, but again, if you follow those programs, you shouldn't have to worry about that at all, because it would just be paid in full. Now, if you don't, and you are left over with a balance that is unforgiven, the SBA essentially will term that balance out into a 2-year loan at that point. So you have 2 years to repay the remainder of whatever was not forgiven at that 1% interest rate. So again, it's a very attractive interest rate. Hopefully you're going to get the whole thing forgiven in the end, and you follow the program to the way that it's meant to be followed. But if not, it is a 2-year repayment at that point at that 1%. What's a little bit different about this program than most loans that you ever apply for as a small business in particular is that there's no collateral required for it. The SBA for the economic injury disaster loan requires collateral. They require personal guarantees. They're going to do credit checks on you just like they normally would. This program does not require collateral. It does not require personal guarantees. They don't touch your credit. They don't look at it. They don't care about it. And none of that stuff applies to this program specifically. It is essentially a loan straight to your business. You are not tied to it personally, unless technically, I guess you're a sole proprietor, and then from a legal standpoint you are. But it is meant to, again, just be cash into the hands of people that is in the end meant to be forgiven. I covered kind of when to apply. So again, most small businesses now, if you have employees, you're able to apply. If you're that single member business, that would be tomorrow. I covered payroll documents. From an application standpoint, unlike the ones that I covered before, and then I will get into when is the money going to get in the hands of people, which I think the main question I'm seeing. Applying for these are directly through financial institutions. So what the SBA learned through that disaster loan that I mentioned from the get-go is that they were not staffed in or capable of handling a national disaster like this. So this is their attempt to engage lenders who do this for a living, right? Day in and day out, we're lending to businesses. We're able to handle this in a much more applicable manner than the SBA would in that aspect. So you apply directly to financial institutions. So as an SBA lender, Nutmeg, you would apply directly through us as well, to right on our website. So you can go right on nutmegstatefcu.org. Right in our Paycheck protection program, it's going to have the forms that you download right there, and a bunch of helpful, useful information like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce guide that I was showing you guys beforehand. In regards to when the money is going to get in the hands of people, and then we're going to take a segue into questions, I think, at that point. We're all going to have to be patient. Money is definitely on the way. Applications started last week. We just received the final guidance from the SBA late yesterday in how to close these loans. So our first round of closings is going to start likely on Monday. The closing process is going to be a little different than what you're generally used to. Many SBA loans require you to get an attorney involved. Not that there will be closing costs for these anyway, but that is not what's going to happen for this process. Essentially, you're probably going to get loan documents generated by a lender like us. They're going to send them out to you. They're going to allow you to sign them and then electronically, scan them back to the credit union, drop them off to a location, something along those lines. The important part, though, is that you're going to have a wet signature document that you need to make sure gets back to your lender. And I say that because what we're hearing is if we do not have a physically signed copy of these documents, you will not be able to apply for loan forgiveness at that point. So it is very important that you keep a copy of that document and that you send the original copy of it into the credit union. If you apply with us directly, we will get instructions on how to do that and ensure that we get that information so that it's ready to go once the application part, the forgiveness part starts.
So I'm having a couple questions come through the chat here. I know Andrea just asked about when the money is coming, so thank you, Shane, for answering that. I have a question from Michael.
Really quick on that money part too, and just to be clear too, many of you guys have probably heard banks like Wells Fargo have stopped taking applications because of the influx of applications, or because they've run out of their allotment of available funds that they're legally allowed to lend out as a financial institution. That's also causing other lenders that are continuing to be open and accepting applications like Nutmeg to get a large amount of applications in. It's going to certainly take time to get through all of them. We will have to be patient. We are working diligently overnight in many cases to try to get these processed as quickly and as efficiently as possible for you guys. As I mentioned, next week is really when the funding starts at that point. The process I would expect if you applied in the last day or two is likely going to take you probably a week or two to get the money in your hands from the initial application to having the money in your hands. Again, you're just going to have to be patient. Nobody was really ready for what's going on today. No financial institution, I could certainly say, was anticipating having to deal with the volume of loan applications that has come in. But Nutmeg is certainly willing and here to help you guys, and we are going to work with you every step of the way to get you the money as quick and efficiently as possible. We are going through our loan queues in the order that the applications are coming in, just like most lenders are as well. So just be patient. We will get back to you, and we will process your application as soon as physically possible.
Awesome, thanks. So getting back into some of the questions, Michael asked, he's confused between the EIAL and the Paycheck Protection Program. Is that the PPP also forgivable? I know you went over that, but just to reiterate.
Yeah, so the EIDL is directly through the SBA. You would apply through it directly with the SBA, and it is basically $10,000 that you're going to get, and you never have to pay back. Doesn't involve a lender at any point. It's directly through the SBA. So I don't know that they really consider it a forgivable loan, but it's, for all intents and purposes, it is. It's a forgivable loan, a forgivable grant, whatever you want to call it in that aspect. The Paycheck Protection Program is also a forgivable loan. The other loan, the $2 million disaster loan that I was talking about from the get-go, that is not a forgivable loan. You pay that back over the course of your term.
Great. I have a couple of questions from Lifeway Church. I will be sending these to Shane in the order that they are received. So question is there a choice between looking at 2019 versus the last 12 months? Part of our company was established in February of 2019. When they're looking at FTEs for the previous period compared to the 8-week time period after receiving the loan?
They are going to look at 2019, unfortunately, for you, and average out what that payroll is for 2019. They are not going to look at 2020 unless you are a seasonal employer. So you hire your workers generally in January, February, March. Then they will take a look at what your payroll is at that period and do a similar equation to figure out your loan amount. Or if you were not established as a business prior to 2020, so if you just started your business in 2020, they will look at 2020 data for you. But for everybody else, they are solely focusing on 2019's payroll information for you, unfortunately.
Thank you. A couple of things in the chat. Just Francis put in, like we said earlier, a link to what Shane was talking about earlier. So thank you, Francis, for that.
Yes, Francis.
Andrea also asked where she can find a recording of this call. Once this call concludes, I will be uploading it to our social media platforms. Just please allow about an hour or so, just so we can export the video and import it into YouTube and whatnot. It could take a little bit of time. So you will hopefully have it later tonight if you need to watch it before. I have a question from Amy. If an LLC applied already, will it be put aside and put back into the mix tomorrow, or should the LLC reapply?
So Amy, I take it you might be referring to an LLC that is a single member LLC. So you're kind of the sole employee of that LLC. It is absolutely perfect. It's absolutely okay that you applied ahead of time. There was not a ton of clarity in regards to what they were stating small businesses were from the get-go. So we did have, some LLCs like you apply ahead of time. You do not have to reapply. Your loan is already in the queue. We just can't process it, unfortunately, until starting tomorrow for you. But you do not have to go into the portal and upload all your documents or reapply.
Awesome. And then similar to, I think, HP's iPhone, which is a very, very unique name, must be Italian. Explain LLC filing for tomorrow, which I believe you just went over, but please, you can just go into that a little bit for HP.
Yeah, so the confusion, and I had to get some CPA buddies on the phone to kick this one back and forth. And to be frank, the SBA has not even given specific guidance on some of this information yet. It's probably going to come tomorrow or early next week. But basically, an LLC that only has one person and elects to file a Schedule C on their tax return is still considered for tax reasons by the federal government to be a sole proprietor. So in that aspect, or an independent contractor in that aspect. So they would be the individuals that would apply tomorrow if you are that single member LLC. Again, an LLC can have just one person like that, or you can have multiple owners and employees as well. If you're that type of LLC where you have multiple owners, or you have one owner and a bunch of employees, and you're not filing your Schedule C, you're filing a 1065. I'm getting super accountant over here on you, sorry. But those individuals were part of the application process that started on, I think it was April 3rd, so last Friday. So really, it's less about the LLC status and more about whether or not you're a single member business or an independent contractor. Hopefully that answered that question.
Thank you. Another one we got from Lifeway Church. In terms of the FTE forgiveness, what if your employees don't want to come back and work even if they're able? They are a daycare.
So you have to keep them on the payroll. You do not have to keep your initial people on the payroll. That is not a requirement. You have to have the same headcount though. So if your full-time employee does not want to come back, quits, whatever the reason happens to be, go get another employee. That's what you need to do, unfortunately. It's not about necessarily the same people. It's about making sure that the staff that you currently have does not get reduced, and that the current staff that you have, their wages are not reduced by more than 25%. There's a lot of companies right now that, we're struggling, and a means to help sustain their business were to cut wages of owners or employees or whoever it happens to be in that case. If you've done that, the day that you get funds, you need to increase their salaries back to at minimum that 75% mark, or you will potentially lose part of that loan forgiveness on there. Yes.
Thank you, Kevin, for that insight. Yep.
One of the things to understand as well, they do cap salaries at $100,000. So if you are, you have an employee, or you are the owner, and you, from a self-employment standpoint, earn more than $100,000, they're going to cap your salary at $100,000 and deduct that from your overall average monthly payroll calculation.
Okay, I have a question from Michael. Says, apply for EIDL advance on Nutmeg or SBA. He could not find the SBA and don't see the EIDL advanced loan app for $10,000 on our website.
So it is directly with the SBA. Corey, what we could probably do is even try to get a link on our website, possibly, to something like that, or maybe make it a part of the Facebook post or something along those lines. But my understanding, you need to apply directly to the SBA for that, that one.
We have some members of our marketing team that manage our website on this call, so they are on it, and they will be working on that. So you expect to see that on our website after the call. I have a question. Actually, this one came up to me, not in the chat, but
Michael,
Shane, I had a question.
Link, just so you know, and embedded it in the chats. Whoever asked.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.
You're the man.
I did get a question from Kim asking if they have questions more specific they'd like to ask privately, where they can reach out to.
Yeah, so I definitely encourage you to reach out to an email address that I'm going to give you, or you can contact us at 860-513-5000, and we will likely have our contact center folks take a message and get that over to our business team. They're the experts in responding to these questions. That also includes going to me in the end. I will also say the quickest, most efficient way to get a response is probably using this email address. It's businesslending@nutmegstatefcu.org. Corey, can you just check that for me? I think it's businesslending@nutmegstatefcu.org, and then drop it in the chat.
I just typed it out.
Perfect. Okay.
It should be in the chat for everyone.
Yeah. So that
along with the phone number that Shane said.
Yeah, that goes directly to our business services team, is monitored regularly. If you shoot questions to there, one of our business specialists will get in touch with you and work through any of those questions that you have.
Okay, I have a question in the chat from Lifeway Church. When should we hear anything if corrections or additional paperwork is needed for the application? They applied last Friday on the 3rd.
Yep. So again, we're going through, we've all gotten an influx of applications. We're all processing them kind of in the order that they've come in. There was, for the church, up until recently, some confusion as to whether churches could even apply. That is likely why you did not hear back right away for that. But your loan was opened back up once we got clarification that churches are eligible under the program now. So I have seen your application in the queue. And we will be in contact with you shortly.
Awesome. Question from HP's iPhone again. For the EIDL, do you have to use the 2019 income, or can you use 2018 if you did not file yet?
That is a good question. You know, generally, as long as you're not past your required filing dates, you can supply other supplemental information to apply for a loan like that. So typically what the SBA does is, if you haven't filed, say, your 2019 tax returns, they're going to look for a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet to supplement 2019 instead. They also, generally the SBA, again, this has nothing to do with the Paycheck Protection Program. The Paycheck Protection Program, they're only going to gather some payroll information from you. They do not ask for your taxes, although let me rephrase that. If you're a small business, they're not going to ask for taxes. If you're a sole proprietor or a single member business, it sounds like that might be one of the documents you can provide to show what your 2019 income was for your quote unquote net earnings, is what they would consider payroll. But if you apply for the loan that we talked about with the SBA directly prior to that, generally there are other alternative forms that you can provide outside of a tax return if that is not filed. Now, if you're somebody who has not filed 2018's tax returns and you're just overdue on your taxes, that's probably going to be a problem for you. But if it's 2019, that tax deadline was moved, just so you're aware, from April 15th to, I want to say June or July 15th or 30th, something along those lines. So that deadline was extended for you. That legally means you are in compliance with not filing your 2019 tax returns. When you file an extension, you're also still in compliance with not filing your 2019 tax returns, you know, until the final due date. So they do accept supplemental information in that aspect. You will have to compile that information for them, though. They will not just rely on old tax returns. They will need more recent financial data from the business.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
I have some information from Kevin as well, just saying that he has some sole proprietors that have told him their bank has said if they do not have themselves set up in a payroll line item in their LLC, they cannot apply for the PPP. Is that a true statement? They
are that single member sole proprietorship. They're the only employee. That would be tomorrow. So they historically could not have applied technically. There is guidance that is in the works on exactly what we will collect for an individual like that. It's my understanding that they will take and are hoping that people have 2019 tax returns, and I literally just said you don't have to file them, but that those individuals have 2019 tax returns to use to verify what their net income is, and that net income would be what would be the qualifying payroll for that individual. Or if that is not available because it's not filed, then that's okay. They are willing to take a profit and loss statement that is compiled by the business that shows a similar net earnings figure. Know that it is not your gross earnings, though, that they're going to take. They are going to look at what, or going to want to know what you've also had in expenses, and that net figure is going to be what they're going to use as your overall payroll. More guidance is going to come on that. So that could totally change in the next 2 days as well.
And not greater than 100,000, according to Kevin as well. Thank you for that.
Not yet. Anybody is capped at $100,000, whether it's that one person business or if you have 50 employees and 20 of them have income over $100,000, you're going to have to cut that amount down for $100,000 to each of those individuals.
I have a question from Amy, if you can hear me. It says, contact info needed for correction. Would it be via email, fax, phone, or mail? Will you be a little bit, Shane, do you know that, or do we need a little bit more specifics on that question?
That business lending email that's right in that chat, shoot a quick email to that, and we can update your application for you.
Thank you. In the chat, I have from Paul, how do you apply for the $10,000 that is forgivable?
That is directly through the SBA, Paul. So you're going to go right onto the SBA's website. I think somebody had included, yes, Michael, a couple chats above you has a link, I believe, right to where that is.
I will copy that right now and paste it back in the chat, just so it's at the bottom for everybody. There you go. Amy has a follow-up to that question she just asked. If Nutmeg needs additional info, how would they contact us?
We would reach out either via email or to the phone number that you provided in the application, if I understood that question right.
I think that's what she's looking for, correct. Amy, does that answer your question, if you don't mind? Yep, she said thank you. Okay, Lifeway Church, how would we find out if we were approved for the $10,000? Is that by email only?
That's directly through the SBA. So I'm honestly not sure how they're going to communicate your approval to you. My understanding is that the funds should get to you really quickly. So I'm assuming there's probably some sort of either email communication or a phone call that you're going to get to work with somebody at some point to fill out whatever approval paperwork that you might need to. Although, to be honest, they might not even give you loan paperwork now that I think about it. If they're just giving you an advance of $10,000, the application that you fill out online might be the only stuff that you have to fill out. I'm not positive about that, but I believe that's what I understand of it.
Great. Question from Michael. As Indy start tomorrow, have to gather profit and losses for 2019, and he's asking if there's any time limit.
I'm not sure I understand that question. Can you rephrase that question?
Michael, can you please type out a little bit more clarification there, if you don't mind, in the chat? While you type that out, he says, rush to file. Do we have to rush to file?
No. So if you're referring to your tax returns, no, there's no rush to file. Again, that profit and loss statement can be used to supplement your tax returns that you have not filed yet for 2019. You will have to provide that prior to the PPP loan being approved, because that's one of the ways that we would verify what we consider payroll for you. But there's no rush to lose out in funds like that. There's definitely a lot of concern, I think, in the business community about the $349 billion, disappearing.
Oh, yeah.
I wholly understand that concern. And while I'm not the decision maker in this, it is my understanding that the government is working on keeping that program funded so that people do not have to rush and try to apply for money because they feel like they're going to miss out in the end. They truly are trying to keep this program funded in totality until 6/30/2020. There's no guarantee of that for sure. This is just what has been in the news and been discussed by Steve Mnuchin and other Treasury individuals. But it's my understanding that you should not have to rush to gain access to funds. I have not heard that they're anywhere near running out of money at this point for them yet either, partially because most lenders haven't been able to actually fund loans for this up until today, tomorrow, or Monday. Again, we just received the actual guidance on how to close on these and what loan closing documents we would need. And everybody was in that same boat. It wasn't, it's not just Nutmeg, it's not just, Bank of America, whoever it is. We were all waiting for that same information. And it changed very rapidly over the week as well. For any of you who had applied initially, you might also have seen that the application that you filled out changed 2 or 3 times, in the amount of what seemed like a 24 or 48 hour time period. That's how much and how quickly, information is being developed, worked to make this more efficient. The government really put this program together, if you think about it, right, in a 2.5, 3 week period. I can't tell you anytime I've ever seen the government move that quickly on anything. And is it perfect? Absolutely not. But I wouldn't be so concerned from what I'm understanding that the money's going to run out on you if you're working on compiling your documentation.
Great. Thank you for the info in there, Kevin, as well. Before I get to that, though, Elkin had a question. If I apply, I got COVID-19 loan directly to Nutmeg. Can I change that for an SBA loan? So I'm assuming the question is if they
want to apply for the Paycheck Protection Loan and the Economic Disaster Loan, you can do both. There's nothing prohibiting you from doing both.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Kim, for that. Thank you, Michael, for the thank you. Shane, very good job from Michael. Lifeway does have a question again. Because the application did change, do we need to fill out the new application, or is version 1 or 2 okay?
Version 1 or 2 is okay. They will accept those if those were what were initially filled out. They just asked lenders to start using the new form after that. Great.
Okay, so that is all the questions I have in the chat. So I will now open up the mics for people to speak now. I will just say there's 31 of us on this call, so please let's be respectful of each other, and let's try to get one question at a time. If you have to say anything out loud, let's just try to do that as as we can. So let me unmute you guys. Bear with me a second while I find that. Anyone in the chat? Sorry for a little feedback there.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Everyone should be open.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, no, I want to really show my appreciation for the call, and I understand, you folks are, you've always been so great to the local community. I have several loan products with you already, and investment products, and I'm just very, very grateful that you guys are you're stepping up, and a lot of banks are not doing this. A lot of banks are not providing, what I would call aggressive, proactive consultation and advice to the general public, and they're leaving people, floundering and squandering and trying to, access as many different, and you get conflicting information. You're getting a little chatter on one of those other mics, Corey. But yeah,
I just muted it.
If we have any other additional, I don't want to take up more time than I'm due, but if we have, with those thank yous, if we have additional, so tomorrow's the first day for Indies. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fallout, a lot of dust created, maybe. Is there another call we could schedule, possibly? I don't want to put you out and put you in the corner, but is it possible maybe to have another call, if people think it's necessary or warranted based on all the new information that might come out?
To be honest, Mike, most of the information that's going to come out is probably going to be more like documentation related. So I'm not sure that would be the most exciting call to have.
Yeah, probably not.
Happy to, I would say something like that. If there are questions, reach out to the business lending email that was in the chat. And that's probably the best way to get an answer like that. If we get a lot of those questions and it makes sense, I'm more than happy to do that in the end. But I also think that would be probably one of the most boring chats to listen to.
Yeah, and I appreciate, again, taking up your time. Obviously, you want to be as efficient as possible and processing all our applications too. That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. I'm sorry if I did mute you. There was just too much background noise. So if you do have a question and I can't hear you, I know, Elkin, I'm sorry, I had to put a little mute. Any other questions that we have for Shane that you couldn't put in the chat? Now, before we ask that question, I will just remind everyone this recording will be available on our social media platforms later tonight. Just takes some time to export it because it's a fairly large video, so just give us some time with that. If anyone has any other questions for Shane, please ask them now either through the chat or through the mics now for those that do have their mics open. Okay, sounds like that we have concluded today. So first of all, I was just here and asking questions to Shane. Let's give a big round of applause to Shane. Thank you very much. He's very knowledgeable on this program. So like I said, we have sent in, actually I do have a question there from Laura, sorry. Can anyone apply even if not a current customer?
You absolutely can. We certainly want you to be a member of the credit union. Hopefully we show you the value of joining a non-for-profit financial institution. Again, remember, we are different than a big bank, and I think that that's an important thing to remember about us. But you do not have to be a current member. Prior to your loan funding, we would make you a member, and essentially it's at minimum a $25 deposit into the savings account. But we'd certainly be willing and able to work with you through opening other products and services outside of that. Once you realize, that unfortunately your other bank kind of didn't help support you, during that time, our hope is that you realize that we're here to help and can help kind of service your business's needs and ready and willing to do so.
Awesome. Thank you, HP, for the thank you. Laura, thank you to thank you. Sam, I saw you nodding your head thank you as well, so thank you as well, my friend. Okay. Thank you, Lifeway Church as well. And thank you for everyone that's on the call. I see a list of you. A couple last minute cleanup things. Again, you can find this webinar on our Facebook page, Nutmeg State Financial Credit Union. Our website is www.bankingawesome.com or www.nutmegstatefcu.org, or just Google search us. That's easy as well. Thank you, Sam. I see Sam in the chat. Proud to say that I'm a member. Thank you for being a member. I got a thumbs up and great job, Shane. So I think you did a good job here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for taking the time. I know, there's so much going on right now, and it's a very difficult time. And I appreciate, one, your willingness to be engaged throughout this and questions, and just, be a part of our greater community in the end. We're all in this together. We're all here to support one another, and that's the important thing. And it's, I think, what gets me through the long nights that I am plugging through applications that you guys are sending in right now is just being able to help you guys and, get money where it needs to be. Sam, love kids.
I do have something from Michael real quick before you go. Can you apply to more than one financial institution?
You cannot get more than one PPP loan. No.
Cool. Thank you for all the kind words, obviously, guys. Again, thank you to Shane. He did a great job today. And we hit it right an hour, what I said. So at this point, we will be concluding the meeting. Again, look later tonight on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel. This video will be recorded up there. It's about an hour long, so if you need to fast forward, we'll try to timestamp some things. Hi, Sam's little guy there. What's up, buddy? I like those PJs. But other than that, thank you guys so much for calling in. Please look at our website. All of the information we talked about today can be found through there. And